Okay, so it's easy to point to Community's shift towards film homage episodes about a mafia family built on chicken fingers or an all-out war in paintball as the key to the show finding its footing late into its first season. The way it truly became a show that a select few of us used to know and love, but now we all know and love thanks to Netflix.
We're Netflix friends.
Yeah, clearly none of my other plans fell through.
And don't get me wrong, these are in my opinion some classic episodes of television. But I think the core theme of Community's story was established earlier in the show's run. And really, there's a lot to be said about the journey of this show into what it became. Its evolution contains multitudes, to be exact, 6 seasons, that comprise 6 distinct eras of the show that each merit an in-depth, season-by-season analysis. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Just so you know, Jeff, you were now creating 6 different
Videos.
Of course I am, Abed. 1.
So in order to understand how Community tells its story, first,
Let's ask ourselves, what is a story?
Oh my God in heaven.
this story initially presents itself as being all about the hotshot lawyer Jeff Winger getting stuck attending Greendale Community College after his degree is discovered to be illegitimate and he gets disbarred. Jeff's very much a guy that wants desperately to do the bare minimum amount of work possible,
If I wanted to learn something, I wouldn't have come to community college.
and he's been successful at that, coasting along thus far given how smart and social that he clearly is.
Funny thing about being smart is that you can get through most of life without ever having to do any work. So, not really sure how to do that.
So who would have thought that a community college and a study group would be what ended up truly testing and changing him? At first glance, Community may appear to be a mean-spirited show about the cynical and quick-witted Jeff Winger getting away with easily mocking and taking advantage of easily impressionable targets at a community college. But it is not, and who would want to watch that?
Those are good people in there. And they trust and respect you, and watching you exploit them kind of bums me out.
Exploit them.
If the end point of this story is meant to be Jeff getting over himself and learning to respect people he once saw as below him, well, I don't want to tune into a show every week about a jerk that seems to never learn empathy. But Jeff finally gaining empathy is not the end point of Community at all. Jeff grows to care for everyone in the study group fairly quickly, and it's incredibly refreshing how increasingly uncynically it's all executed. So, what is the main drive of the show then? Is it the romance between Jeff and Britta? Oh, certainly not. The show evolves so drastically beyond Jeff's infatuation with Britta. As the show later lampshades, Jeff wanting to get with Britta is ostensibly the reason that the study group formed in the first place. Except, when you really think about it, just like Jeff's romantic pursuit of Britta isn't actually the main drive of the show, it's also not the actual reason that the group forms. The actual most direct reason for why this now iconic main cast of characters showed up is because Abed invited them all from Spanish class. And we truly get a fascinating dichotomy between the characters of Jeff and Abed. This isn't very overt and feels a lot more apparent upon reflection of the series as a whole, but Jeff and Abed are really the 2 main characters of this show.
Hey, Abed, why are you and I the only sane?
Just watch.
And this dynamic gets off to a fascinating start. These seemingly diametrically opposed characters actually twist and overlap in surprising ways.
I was raised on TV.
So I was kind of raised by TV.
How interesting is it that the seemingly antisocial character is the one who brought the people, whereas the panderingly charming people's person is the one who tries to escape them?
I invited more people from Spanish class. Is that cool?
It's the coolest.
For as active and manipulative of a character that Jeff is, he is contextualized in the world of Greendale Community College as the one who instinctually resists interaction with others that he deems unnecessary. And it's this quality that comes from creator Dan Harmon's life experience attending community college himself.
Guys asking me to study with them, and inside my head going, if there was no social consequences to the behavior, I would just ghost these guys.
The real main drive of Community is this sort of state of mind. The show being about a time in your life when you're getting a little older, becoming more disillusioned, and starting to think that maybe joy is dead? But then you find happiness again.
You're just incredibly stunted. Like, you've made it to this age and this tastes like candy to you, and all it is other human beings.
Any given episode of this show seems to revolve around embracing a little sense of the titular community. It revolves around finding meaning in simplicity, or seizing the day, as a certain Dead Poet Society-obsessed professor might put it. One of the earliest plots in the show centers around the deeply relatable concept of traveling from class to class and talking to someone on the way. Jeff and Shirley happen to share the same little mini-commute, but he isn't interested in talking to her. Not out of contempt or anything, he just doesn't feel close enough to her yet. After all, they don't seem to have much in common. What would they even talk about? So many episodes seem built around Jeff being confronted with putting in extra effort, doing something that isn't part of the objective he set out to do. Get his degree, get out of this school, and get right back to being a lawyer. Even something as simple as this, he avoids. He does not want to do anything that he feels is extra.
Why didn't you do the extra credit assignments if you knew that you were failing?
Because doing more than the minimum work is my definition of failing.
One episode literally revolves around a Dia de los Muertos themed party Annie organizes purely for extra credit that Jeff reluctantly attends. Starting with episode 2, each season 1 episode kinda puts the spotlight on Jeff's growing connection with one of the members of the ensemble. In episode 7, the Dia de los Muertos party draws that to a close, ending with them all interrupting his romantic pursuit of Professor Slater because they're convinced that he's the only one that can help them. And Jeff, as ever, can choose to either act like he's above such things, or return to that extra credit party, save an unraveling Pierce, and let himself start to play along. Going from at the beginning of the episode drawing mocking attention to the reality that Abed's just wearing a costume,
Abed, you're not Batman.
to, at the end, embracing the imagination.
Batman. Yeah. Are you staying for the party?
At this point, he's connected with them all, and on some level, he's accepted that. So season 1 doesn't drag this out and make the overarching arc Jeff learning to not be a jerk, and it feels more authentic that it doesn't try to force it. It lets his growing bonds with the study group formulate and remain, instead of hitting the reset button each week. The midway point of the season alludes to this beautifully with a great fake out from Jeff coming back from winter break.
Let's get one thing straight. I wish I was still a lawyer. I'm only here because I'm hot for Britta, and I don't want to be anybody's friend. Just kidding. Bring it in!
Jeff's already joking about the shallow guy he used to be, as he earnestly hugs his new friends. And the show further engages with the concept by questioning, can he retain the wisecracks and edge of his old self while also being more accepting in a sort of soft reboot of his own character?
This character reboot is really gelling for you, Jeff.
Is the self-actualized, friend-loving version of Jeff still Jeff? And the show finds a very satisfying solution here. You see, a lot of episodes start being about Jeff reluctantly accepting these propositions from the school to join the debate team or take over the school paper. And that is when the dean becomes an integral presence to this show. Because at this point, Jeff loves his study group friends, which the show can only compromise so much without that love feeling hollow. Well, unless it's Pierce, but we'll get to that in season 2. But with the dean, here is a character that can comfortably remain at arm's length from Jeff's perspective. The giddy beacon representing the school itself, making an announcement over the PA system, running up to him in the hallway, jumping from a bush, or, of course, entering the study room wearing one of his wonderfully themed outfits. For a show about a study group, it's really not often about studying.
Remember when we used to study Spanish?
Don't get me wrong, there are episodes revolving around their insane Spanish teacher, Senor Cheng, but even those tend to be about not just Jeff doing the bare minimum and passing the class, it's him putting in extra effort, like when he defends Britta for cheating on an exam, or when he helps Chang address problems in his personal life. Look at all this extra stuff Jeff gets wrapped up in over the course of the season. We get 5 dances he attends that provide ample opportunities for Jeff to spend more time with his study group outside of what's quote-unquote necessary. We get a pottery class that Jeff attends since it seems like an easy blow-off class, but he ends up putting in more effort than when he needs to out of feeling unspecial. He also becomes extra invested in his pool blow-off class.
Because I don't look cool in shorts!
And we get the aforementioned debate team, where Jeff actually learns to put aside his lawyer parlor tricks and cheap emotional appeals in favor of hard work and hard facts and figures. And just like Jeff started his journey in the show overall with the simple, grounded goal of getting his degree, a lot of these individual episodes give Jeff a simple, grounded goal to start out with, and then see him set it aside for a more meaningful human purpose and calling over the course of the episode. The initial reason that Jeff joins the debate team is actually just to get better parking.
I don't care, dude. I'm doing this for a parking space.
But it eventually turns into an episode about Jeff helping Annie achieve the recognition she deserves in the face of an awful jerk who mocks her past pill addiction.
That's it. Dude, we're gonna debate the living crap out of you.
And it also begins the surprisingly deeper connection between Jeff and Annie. All stuff that went far beyond the initial premise. So then eventually we build to a point that in any given episode, Jeff will not only find himself wrapped up in a new adventure, but the setting itself, Greendale, can truly transform on a fundamental level to fit the context of that adventure. So even as the adventures get bigger and genre-inspired, the show still holds the same principle at its core, of genuine stakes stemming from initially mundane, simple goals. Why do they start a mafia family? To get chicken fingers in the cafeteria. Why do they start a paintball war? For priority registration next year. And the emotional elements gradually and naturally reveal themselves over the course of these stories. Whether we're doing a more grounded episode about a study group Christmas or holiday party that's important to Shirley, since due to her recent divorce, it's the only celebration she'll have this year, or a big paintball blowout, that doesn't change the core guiding principle of the show. The stakes come from personal matters. We're invested in the paintball war on an emotional level because not only does Jeff eventually give Shirley the priority registration so she can spend more time at home with her kids, the episode develops Jeff and Britta's romantic connection in a way that feels authentic. And the heightened nature of the episode underlines how much this development changes the status quo of the show. It's world-changing in terms of the form, and world-changing for the lives of these sitcom characters, as Abed notices.
Something's changed.
And when it comes to the Chicken Fingers episode, well, that's about Abed embracing the genre components of a mob family movie because it lets him understand social interaction better than he ever has before. It also gets to the root of the driving force behind Jeff, by reminding you of his original one.
Do you know why I'm here?
You got caught with a fake bachelor's degree. By the way, they started using that as a seasonal arc on Law & Order. Total ripoff.
And showing how it's shifted into something less tangible and more human.
I manipulated the group into getting you the fry cook job so I could have some chicken. And you turned it all into a way to make everyone like you. Let's make a deal. I'll help you connect with people, and you help me do a better job with them.
Really, overall, Community is about the joy you find in playing along.
Leonard, I'm not playing.
Everyone's playing.
And the reason the genre episodes work is that they offer the most elevated televisual representation of this concept. And you couldn't have just started the show with episodes like this. The way the format changes, the sweeping cinematography, the dramatic music, the moody lighting, the reason it's all so special is that it hinges on our familiarity of this school setting that they're working from within. So it truly feels exciting to turn the usually bright, bantery study room into a canvas for an intimate nighttime conversation or an over-the-top final shootout in 2 back-to-back scenes. But even more than that, this all indicates the shift in character for Jeff. Just as Jeff stopped seeing himself as the center of the world, the series shifted from being a Jeff-centric character piece to an ensemble show, delighting in the talents of all of its cast members. Community is the cure for narcissism, a show made out of giving elevated significance to situations that Jeff would have once considered below him. The central question of each episode stops being, can Jeff not be a bad person? And instead becomes, how can we all enjoy existing together? And with these genre episodes, we the audience are put into the shoes of the normal guy, fish out of water Jeff, seeing the world the way Abed sees it. And once we're out of the genre, you feel like you just came out of a fever dream, returning to the familiarity.
Oh, hi.
Hey, how's it going? You still have some, paint.
Oh, thanks.
The usual instrumental music slides in, characters are walking down a hallway. Even as they talk about it, it feels like we just got back from another universe, and we're coming back down to reality, blown away by what we just saw, as we come to understand just how fun life can be. This moment wasn't fun just because it reminded us of a movie or how it feels to see a movie, but because it made us feel like we regular people on the other side of the screen could have our own adventures if we just took our familiar settings and friends and seized the day. Now, the genre episodes over the course of the rest of the series end up taking on many other purposes, but there's something very true to this principle that informs a lot of what makes this show tick. Jeff is always the guy telling us how it is, and Abed is the guy who shows us what the world can be. Fun, insane, inclusive potential, and potential that the show would pay off in spades as it continued. Jeff once viewed Greendale Community College as an inhibition, a pathetic institution forcing him to do lame things he didn't want to do, now that he's fallen from grace.
I'm locked out of my old kingdom.
But over the course of season 1, he learns to see it in reverse, seeing the underground nature of this place as fun and freeing.
You can do that?
We can do anything we want. It's Greendale.
Why choose to take the straightforward approach? Why not take that extra step and let yourself have fun and play games?
I was exaggerating. It's kind of my gimmick.
And it's that exact kind of exaggerating gimmick that this show starts wearing on its sleeve all the more in season 2. But hey, why did the show have to become this? Why couldn't this show have stayed a more traditional, grounded sitcom in the same way that Jeff could have just kept his head down and gotten through school and gotten out? Why did the show have to relish in these crazy genre parodies? Why did it have to take a step that was extra? Well, look no further than this simple line from Troy, summing up what he was able to accomplish faster than Jeff. His own character path, from too cool for school guy to an unlikely embracing of friendship and the wacky antics that come with it, as illustrated through some unforgettable end credits tags that were, in and of themselves, extra.
Why do you guys do stuff like this?
Because it's fun.
Yeah.
And there you have it. Stay tuned for season 2.